he starts fighting with Gambit. At one point, we see a very badly done CGI thing with like a fire escape, which had me questioning how tall the fire escapes are in New Orleans. But
I'm
then
not nearly that tall.
yeah, okay. I was like, this at this point he cut a skyscraper down. Like it is not that tall. Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith.
And I'm Andrew Tejada. We're going through superhero productions to let you know if they're still fun or the hype around it was dumb on
Cape or Cap, a Black Nerd superhero podcast. Welcome to this week's installment of Cape or Cap, a Black Nerd superhero podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comics Jams.
And I am Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year codename Wolverine, the movie dropped. Harry Gordini, college professor and ex-Navy SEAL, becomes caught in a war between a ruthless drug cartel and the United States government when a group of international terrorists kidnaps his 10-year-old son.
What?
That's what IMDb says. I don't see anybody famous, respectfully, from this movie. I hope everyone's doing well, but there was no sequel. I don't know. I don't know what happened after this.
They didn't even change it to like codename the Wolverine or anything like that.
No, it's just
Damn.
the main guy was in God's Not Dead, We the People, which I think is the fourth or fifth one in the series. So great.
Well, I do hope they're all doing well with whatever career paths they decide to choose. But I guess today we're talking about someone who decided to continue on with his career path by which being playing the Wolverine for what was it, like 19 years or so before retire.
A law, like at least.
At least. Okay, yeah, you know what? I think it was about 19 years because I remember X-Men came out in about the year 2000. Logan came out in 2019. And then just like Michael Jordan popped out of retirement for Deadpool and Wolverine.
You're right. 17 years exactly straight.
Boom. Look at that. That's why they call me Comic Shams, y'all. But speaking about Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine, we're going to talk about his first full feature-length film where it was just really only him and a bunch of his people with some X-Men references. As we talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine, the 20th Century Fox film, the fourth film within the X-Men kind of universe in a bit. This movie had a runtime of 107 minutes. This 2009 PG-13 film, so you already know how we're leveling this out throughout the rest of this movie. Was directed by Gavin Hood, who is the director behind such productions like Ender's Game and the Prison Break spin-off series Breakout Kings.
There was a spin-off series?
Yeah, I think it took place between seasons 4 and 5.
Because I thought that was called Legends of Tomorrow. The Prison Break spinoff, but I sometimes mix up names.
Alternate universe where Flash did some Flashpoint magic. We got some writers here today. 2 writers. Our duo here includes Skip Woods, who's known for writing Swordfish, 2010's The A-Team, and both Hitman movies. Hitman and It's a Reboot, which I found out was a reboot. Hitman Agent 47.
Don't even remember it.
And then he worked alongside this dude named David Benioff. I mean, I'm not
Game of Thrones fans, calm down.
Calm down.
We didn't want this to happen. It's already in the past. I'm sorry.
All right, so now that we kind of level set here, let's jump into the cast list as we got Hugh Jackman returning for his 4th time as the Canadian uncanny protagonist here. Now going by the name James Howlett for a good part of the film, who then becomes Logan, and then chooses the name Wolverine. Fun fact, his younger counterpart is played by YouTube star and now 2-time Grammy Award nominee Troye Sivan.
Oh, wow. Look at I can't imagine this career trajectory, like how this even came about. Good for you.
Next up, Lee Schreiber, great actor who's always been killing it, especially when you remember that he was cotton weary in the first three Scream movies. So he very much knows about the intimidating premise and the creating a scary situation in films. He is Victor. Actually, do they even use the last name Creed?
I don't think so.
All right,
I
he's
really
just
don't think so.
he's just Victor. And we're not gonna say he doesn't go by the code name that we know him for, but we also know him in comics and across X-Men productions as the character Sabretooth. The two of them are part of a larger team that gets shown throughout the film, including Ryan Reynolds, who plays his first iteration of Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. Dominic Monaghan, great person because he introduced us to the joys of second breakfast in Lord of the Rings. Today he is Chris Bradley, who in the comics actually goes by the character by the name of Bolt, I believe. Kevin Durand. I have to not Durant. They look very different. But Kevin Durand, you know him, great actor. You see him on screen all the time. For me, whenever I see him, I know that he's up to no good. I remember him mostly in the Swamp Thing limited series that was on DC Universe as the Floronic Man Jason Woodrow.
Oh, okay. I recognize him from the vampire movie from this year. The ballerina one, Abigail. Abigail.
Oh,
He's in that.
Abigail. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
great in Abigail. I
Mm-hmm.
really like his work. I hope to see more of him. I haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah. Well, you'll definitely see a lot of him today because he plays Fred Dukes, aka the character known in comics as the Blob. That was just he's a very big dude in this movie. I'm just saying. We also got Daniel Henney, the voice of Tadashi on Big Hero 6. But Daniel Henney is the man with powers that we cannot explain, Agent Zero.
Yeah, if anyone knows what his powers are, please let us know in the comments.
Will.i.am, is he the lead singer of the Black Eyed Peas, or is he just like the leader, or I don't even know what to call him really.
The Black Eyed Peas don't exist by any metric. They don't there's no words you can describe the Black Eyed Peas. I do know this is his debut acting role, and
Oh.
good job, buddy.
Yeah, so Will.i.am plays the character John Wraith. We got some other supporting characters, including Taylor Kitsch, who is playing Remy LeBeau, who we know as Gambit. Remember it. Lynn Collins, Andrew, you might know her as Leah or Leia from the Walking Dead series.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was like, is there anything about her that we should know? I mean, she plays Kayla Silverfox in our movie today.
Well, she's not Native American. And she was not very liked. Her character, she was great performance on Walking Dead. Her character wasn't very liked, which is kind of ironic given where she ends in this movie.
Oh man. All right. So next up we got Tim Peacock. He plays a young Scott Summers here. That he does that.
Mm-hmm. Certainly
and,
does.
And finally, we got Danny Huston playing General William Stryker. You'll remember his face in Yellowstone. He played the Nazi villain in the DCEU's first Wonder Woman film. But more importantly, in a very fitting way to start this podcast, Caper Cap, he was the voice of General Lane in the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie, which was the movie that we covered to start our podcast journey together.
You know, we'd say we planned it because we did. Boom, Easter egg. Now we have Easter eggs.
All right, so with that, let's get ready to see if there's enough mutant powers in this movie to make it a Cape movie. And that's the movie we're talking about is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
So we start with a sickly little boy named James being watched over by his very creepy friend Victor. And his father comes in very concerned. Apparently, he just gets sick all the time. Victor remarks, "Oh yeah, I used to get sick like you, but not anymore because I started using Metabolism Plus." That's our sponsor for this episode. So please. Our sponsor is really nail clippers, and you'll see why later. But in any case, they're having a sweet little meeting in James' bedroom, and all of a sudden there's a ruckus downstairs, and it's revealed that Victor's drunk father is downstairs with a shotgun. And also the dad went downstairs to check it out first, and now he's no longer with us. He's dead.
Yeah. Quickest on-screen appearance and death I think I've ever seen, to be honest. We're shocked, and so is James here as he runs down to see his father on the ground. He's he just his last breath is just saying his son's name once again. And while all this is happening, we see Thomas, who is Victor's father here, holding James's mother hostage. And he's just like, we need to tell him the truth. We need to tell him the truth. But James, in a fit of rage, you start seeing that he starts producing the bone claws, known for comic book fans as like the original form of Wolverine. So once these come out, he immediately runs towards Thomas Logan, stabbing him. I want to say in the gut because it was like a drastic height difference. But this is also like, you would think you could survive that, but this is also like 1845. So I feel like like any small cut during that time was just like immediate death, which it was for this film here too.
Yeah, I mean the diseases. I think it's the 1800s. Yeah, you're not living that. So after committing a murder, his Logan's James's the names are gonna
This is
be
going to get confusing.
yeah. James's mom says you're a freak, so he runs outside, and Vic is quick to follow, saying, "Yo, I guess since the man you just killed that actually turns out to be your dad, and that's my dad, crazy. Seems like we're half brothers. You want to like run away together and do some violence?" And James is for it, and the two run into the greatest opening of any superhero movie, no cap, of all time. This is the greatest opening right
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah, because we get a chance to see them all grown up now. They are fighting in different wars. We saw first with the American Civil War, because again, this was 1845, so just a few years later, there was a quote unquote battle for state rights.
Mm.
Um, so we see them taking hits and actually getting shot, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down in any way, shape, or form. So it's showing that, from what we've known from the previous X-Men movies, that they both have this kind of either invulnerability or regenerative healing factor. We immediately jump into World War One, and then we also jump into World War Two, which I think was the storming of Normandy, which is so.
Mhm.
This is a very historical and educational film already. And then we pop over to the future where we're in Vietnam. It's the Vietnam War, and we're seeing little by little during this time that James is seeing how Victor is becoming more and more aggressive, especially while in the Vietnam War, where James decides to take someone as like hostage for winning that battle that day. And it's unsure what he plans to do, but it does seem like it was not okayed by anybody there. None of his friends, none of his army mates said that this was something to be done. So as they try to stop him, he starts pushing everybody and attacking everybody. James tries to jump in to try to help quell the whole situation, but Victor's too far gone. He's just like getting angrier. And at one point, he even kills their superior officer, which then leads to the reveal that they're not like us. They're not human at all. I tried. I did.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
my
Like
job.
they're no, not saying they're. I mean, Victor, he might be doing some Drake stuff, but no, they're just mutants. Um, yeah, they do get shot by a firing line, but they don't die. So their supervisors throw them in jail until Colonel Stryker appears and says, basically, y'all could rot here in jail, or you could join my team. It's kind of like a kind of Suicide Squad or something. Okay, wrong universe. But he does want to put together a team, Black Ops team. They literally have no other options, so they go on with it. And at this point, if you haven't watched this movie in a while, you might think, okay, what's these things are flowing really well. Good montage. The opening was quick but effective. What is could be any issue with this? Well, we jump into a mission where they're on an airplane. Deadpool is quipping. We see Agent Zero, other people who are less important in the plane. And the way they talk in the scene, it's as if they've done missions before, or at least
Yeah.
one or two missions prior to this. So now you're wondering how much time has passed since that conversation in Vietnam? Are we still in the 60s? Guess what? They're not going to answer that for you. Like, we have no idea. And there are a lot of these time skips in the movie that there's nothing wrong with having a lot of time skips, but you have to be clear about
Mm-hmm.
where, because now, Deadpool talking about how much he loves his sword and whipping it out at his ex-girlfriend's wedding is all well and dandy, but we have no at one point Wolverine turns to Fred Dukes and goes, "Oh, you got another tattoo? You can't walk into every town and say you love a woman." It's like, what? This has never happened for us before. It's not. It's not a good scene. I don't know. I was really disoriented by that on the plane.
I needed some level setting because we already had that great montage where we are jumping through time. So, you know, there it's when we're watching it, we just have an understanding of what time period it is because just general American history has tells us like when the Vietnam War was, when was World War II and Civil War, all that stuff. But once you establish that like they've been on missions together to the point where they can joke with one another, even with Will I Am telling James to be nice, even though that might be difficult for you because I've seen what you do in the past. Like that kind of that kind of dialogue is something where it's just like I can make that joke with a friend that I've known for a year. Has it been a year? Has it been 6 months? What's the time period? And we, as you mentioned, we don't get that answer at all because we immediately jump into the mission. We do get some cool scenes where Bradley, he's well, I was very confused about his power because I thought he was a technopath. Apparently, that's not the case. But in this movie, he portrays as a technopath, as he is the more one like guiding and flying the plane around for everybody, while he's also in the back just like laughing and having a good time with everyone. And I'm just like, I'm gonna need you to be a little bit more focused. Probably only like two people on this plane are immortal.
Also, like, did they not? Why couldn't they get a pilot? It was never established
Right.
why they couldn't just have a pilot for this mission, like a regular guy. Why did it
Or
have to be?
anyone could have just flown the plane in general. Like they were literally Stryker was not doing anything at all. He could does he not know how to fly a plane? He just knows how to assemble teams.
If it was a stealth mission, I still don't know if his powers can hide a plane. I don't think they can.
He would also need for the plane to have stealth technology.
Right. And this is yeah. So for some reason, though he is useful on the team, I will admit, in the upcoming
Mm.
sequence, I like to call "Who is your powers and what do they do?" Because they go to an armed compound of some kind, and Agent Zero, the Striker says, "Agent Zero, do your thing," and he just shoots real good, flips in the air, and shoots good a lot, and those are his powers. I don't is what is it? Telekinesis? Is it
I'm
just shoot good?
90% sure he's like there's that meme where it's just like what it looks like in Demon Slayer for all the form breathings is just take away the visuals and the animation, and that's Agent Zero. They did not have a budget for Demon Slayer like animation in this film, so they were just like Agent Zero just jump around. Probably added in post, but they probably forgot.
Yeah, to be clear, he jumps like 100,000 feet in the air and
Right, he
shoots with
clears a
perfect
gate.
accuracy. Yeah, easily. And kills about like 50,000 police security people outside of this mansion, which prompted the question, why did they bring anybody else? Um, especially the Blob, well, the future Blob, but now Fred Dukes, he punches a
Mhm.
tank and is able to stop a shell from coming out and blow up the tank, which prompts my question. What are his powers? Tank
just
punching?
tank. He's got tank abilities. That is it.
And finally, to conclude this sequence of what are your powers, they get to the top floor, which thankfully Bradley is able to turn on a turned off elevator. Good job, guy.
Mhm.
And there's a couple final people to before they get to the final boss of this encounter. So Wade Wilson goes out and moves his swords real fast, fast enough to parry bullets and
Slice him in half.
slice them in half. What are his powers though? What is it?
This is katana. He has my back. That is his powers. He is literally the MCU's answer to katana in this film. Oh, I'm sorry, 20th Century Fox's answer to katana.
So overall, as introductions to mutant to teams of superpowered people go, pretty unclear for three of them why they're on the squad at all.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to my boy Ray because um Will I Am big scene here. He one I think he probably only had like two scenes, but like good enough scene for me.
Yeah.
Where he does stop the person who is at the other side of this wherever McMansion they're at. And during this entire exchange, Stryker walks up. He's like, all right, give us the thing. And he's just like, clearly this is in these are just like they're mining diamonds. And he's just like, just take all the diamonds that you want, because he's thinking it's a general robbery. But then Stryker goes and pulls for what the guy at the table says is the least inexpensive thing on his table, which is just some random rock. And he's asking, where did you get it from? The guy says, I don't know. But through some torture and coercion, he does share that he got it from this little small village that gave it to him as a gift, I guess, for work from diamond mining, I guess, which they decide to go check in and end up holding the entire little village hostage.
So the leader of the village, in a scene that kind of reminded me of like that scene in Dragon Ball where they're like, where are the Dragon Balls? They're sacred. You can't have them. So they start
Yeah.
killing everybody. Same thing here. They say the rock or metal they found was sacred. It's some kind of meteor, sure, meteor called adamantium. I I'm sure I thought that was the origin for vibranium being a meteor, but
More recently, they kind of explain now that adamantium is just a poor version of the real thing that I think does come from space.
thank you for fixing the continuity in X-Men Origins Wolverine, guys.
Hey, we gotta do something. I don't know.
But upon not giving them, they give the orders to start killing everyone. Logan still James. James prevents Victor from killing one person, literally just one person, because Deadpool goes and kills like 50 people off screen. Um, and James is like, look, I'm done with this. I'm done with the killing. I'm walking away. And they're like, you can't, which I thought he couldn't because of the whole, legal thing with Vietnam. But then again, how long has it been since Vietnam? We're not sure. In any case, James is like, all right, I'm out. And he walks right up to Canada and starts a career as a lumberjack.
So 6 years have passed. James is no longer James. He is going by his biological father's surname, Logan. He's living in Canada with his now girlfriend, a woman by I I think they just call her Silver Fox. Um,
Kayla Silver
hey,
Fox.
Kayla,
To
right?
justify
I
the
got
fact that she is not actually Native American.
right. So he's living with his girlfriend Kayla. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, we hop on over to what looks like a kind of like, I guess, like middle America carnival setting where this couple are just having some fun. They're playing some games and they come across Bradley, who is operating a game where it's just like you have to turn off a light bulb that he is holding.
Which I'm like, if you can control electricity, if you can at least, at the very minimum, if you have the power to turn things on and off with your mind, I
Mm-hmm.
do not think this is the only use of your power for money. I think there are a lot of other you could call, like you could hold billionaire parties for ransom. That's what I would do. I would like find where Elon Musk lives and say, "Yo, your electricity is not coming on tonight." They're like, "Who is this? Don't worry
Mm-hmm.
about it. Your electricity is not coming on." Or one of his servers, like I'll shut down
Mm-hmm.
your entire Tesla servers for a day unless you give me a one-time ransom. Do not come looking for me, otherwise they will never turn on again. Like I would do something like that. One time score. Elon, we're friends though. You know, we're good. If you want to send me a Cybertruck or something, that's fine. Just hypotheticals. But um, yeah, I don't understand. There had to have been another use for his powers.
So while he's there, the couple loses the game. They get very frustrated and even make it seem as if like people are now are understanding that there are people out there that not like them. So as Bradley decides to retire for the night, he's in his truck. He's just trying to get some sleep, kick back, and then he hears a knock on the door. He's thinking it's somebody coming demanding the refund, but it's actually Victor, who walks in very menacingly and it's just like, "Hey man, it's been a while. Not gonna invite me in for a couple or something?" And Bradley invites him in, which prompts Victor to be like, "Hey, Wade's dead, looking for someone, figured you can help me." And Bradley states, "I'm not afraid to die because I'm not afraid of you. I'm good." And this was the creepiest, though very well delivered line I've ever heard, where Victor is just like, "How can you say you're not afraid of dying if you've never tried it yet?"
Mm.
Mm, I'm scared.
It's cold. Leave Schreiber. I, I again, like there are some flaws in this movie that we will discuss, but overall, I want to say most of the performances are good, and Leave
Yeah.
Schreiber really commands Sabretooth, really gives it that menace, that enjoyment of the carnage and the violence,
Mm-hmm.
without going too hammy, without being too cartoony. It's great. But while he's murdering Bradley, Wolverine is murdering Sheets, and not in a fun way. He has a nightmare and slices his sheets in his sleep. And Kayla goes, you know, what were you dreaming about? Were you dreaming about the war again? And he's like, yeah, which war? All of them. And I know it's supposed to be a cold line, but nah, man.
It's not.
I think you were dreaming about like a specific war, not like a montage.
He was dreaming the opening sequence.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what they were using. Um, so the next day he's going around making 19 grand for lumberjacking, and Stryker shows up and says, "Hey, James, Logan, whatever your name is, where someone's going around, and guess what? They're killing mutants like Bradley." And the thing about this is, we already know.
Mm-hmm.
We already know who it is. So for us as an audience, this scene is not fun because there's no mystery. Even if you go back, and even if they had cut out the scene between Bradley or didn't have Sabretooth in that scene, as an audience, what we have seen is they did some crazy blackout stuff 6 years ago, and now someone's coming to kill them. But there were no recognizable characters in that scene that could have done it. There wasn't like a
Mm-hmm.
kid looking at the back with a scar and an intense look. There wasn't like Storm in the corner. There wasn't like Apocalypse. So there's no we this means nothing to us because there's nobody we know who could have done it. This reveal to Logan is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I agree because it's like, the immediate thing is to go like, we know what the thing was, but it'd be like someone is working for someone else in a different sense. All that really just happens here is just like Stryker has this line And the most entertaining thing about it is probably the very small pissing contest between Logan and Agent Zero, where Agent Zero shoots Logan's cigar in the middle of the crowd and no one reacts. No one is just like, no one's up in arms. No one's like hit the deck, nothing. And he's talking in front of other people and they see him get shot. And they're not like, yo, either this guy's a good shot or Logan is very lucky.
Yeah, so after the random shooting in Lumberjack Town, which apparently happens all the time, um, there's a brief scene where some guys decide to have a conversation in the middle of the damn road and block the whole road. So Logan wants to go and tear them up, but Kayla steps in, puts a hand on each of the men, and goes, "Hey, you calm down. Shoulders, guys, shoulders." It's a PG-13 movie. So she tells them to calm down. They do. Then she goes on that night to tell an extremely long story about
Oh my
a
god.
Wolverine howling at the moon. There's no point in repeating the story. That's where he gets his name from. We're moving on. The very next day, Logan is doing his lumberjack thing. Kayla is driving, and Logan catches a sniff of an old bro. His old bro Victor is in town, and he's not here to bake him a cake and say hello.
So Victor, we see, starts making his way, walking over to Kayla. In the scene, Kayla is in her car as she watches Victor basically scratch it up with his bare hands. When Logan runs over and find Kayla's car, he sees that the door has been ripped off. And as he's looking around, he sees a body on the ground. And when he runs towards it, he sees Kayla on the floor, bloody, and can't feel a pulse. So he's immediately knows that Victor has killed the one person that he's loved this entire time. You know, he really tried to make a new life for himself, and he's very upset that Victor would do such a thing. So Victor is in a bar now, pretty close by. He's basically using his claws to like draw a little smiley face on the table, and the guy, the bartender, walks up and is like, "Yo, my man, you're not a rap from around here, are you, huh?"
Wait, we can't glance over the fact that this bar is a barn with
Oh yeah.
one long wooden table, and seemingly 5 people go to this place to drink, and they
It's
don't
all the
have insurance.
lumberjacks. Yeah.
Right? The lumberjack. They make a whole point that this place doesn't have insurance. Is I we can, if there are Canadians on the podcast, Pete, tell me if I've been to Montreal, but outside of Montreal, is this how the bars are? Are they just in whatever bar do you find, no insurance? Just hate, you're sitting on hay bales. In any case, Wolverine shows up, and they still he still insisted that, you know, you're going to need insurance for this. They just break the barn door, which is kind of disappointing. Like, they don't mess up the bar.
Yeah.
Literally, they just like mess up the door, which I get, it's going to be a nightmare to replace, but that's it. There's no other damage.
But will it though? Because it's a lumberjack town. Like, I'm 90% sure somebody's got a spare door.
They probably need it if it's built that shoddily. um but they have a fight, and ultimately, which this is a hilarious fight because they are pretty well matched, but Victor really gets ahead once he dumps a bunch of logs on Wolverine, throws him in front of a truck, and then breaks Wolverine's bone claws off. But just one set of them. This is all funny because later on they keep saying you can never beat Victor as you are with your regular powers. But Victor was just spamming environmental moves. Like, he didn't beat him in a straight up fight. He just used his environment slightly better. Like, that's everything else in the movie happens because of this. And like, no, just go for round 2, man. I'm pretty sure you'll get him next time.
Fight him on like a deserted plain. Fight him in the desert.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be fine.
So now that this entire fight has happened and Wolverine has lost here, oh sorry, Logan has lost here, he decides to, this is, oh man, please Please never again, people, put three different names for your titular character. It is too much. We can do just random one-off names, but when you have three, this is a lot. So now that Logan has lost, he decides to take Stryker up on his offer. The whole thing is that he's going to be taken somewhere to be given something that will give him an edge over Victor so that he could finally get the vengeance for the death of Kayla. And that thing is, as Stryker will then explain, is that during the time when after Logan had left, they found more of that meteorite, this adamantium. So they found ways to incorporate it into a person's body. However, the thing that isn't told to Logan is that most, if not all, of the people who have been subjected to the adamantium have died. But Stryker believes that due to Logan's like basic stubbornness against death, that he should be able to survive the process, and that will give him the edge that he needs to take on Victor. And Logan's just like, bet, I'll do it. What I want though is once you do this, I want a new set of dog tags. I don't want it to say Logan. I don't want it to say James. I want it to say Wolverine, as a reference to the story that Kayla had told him, the last story she told him before she had passed.
Also, probably to avoid all that military draft dodging stuff that he's doing right now. So he gets into the machine, which is familiar to anyone who's seen anything Wolverine, X-Men. And apparently this is good. This is a really good thing the movie does mention that anesthesia won't work on him. So he has to stay awake, which I think is really, really nice. To show his pain tolerance. He's getting injected with 1,000,000 needles. And he gets flashbacks to everything we saw for the last 40 minutes in the movie.
In case y'all forgot.
Yeah, just in case you guys are falling asleep, which so after he survives the procedure, Stryker is showing the general, hey, look, he survived the procedure. Stryker's immediately like, okay, cool, it worked. You want to like erase his memory right now? Apparently a thing he can do. Okay. But Wolverine now hears that, wakes up. Zero tries to shoot him with regular bullets, but it doesn't work, which they should really be aware of. They just coated his skull with adamantium. Why did they think normal bullets were going to do anything?
Agent Zero, you're catching the zero here. Like this was so dumb of you, bro.
This was so easily unavoidable.
Wasting bullets.
Logan just kills like 3 people.
Naked,
which is kind of naked. While naked. And it's really jarring because in other versions of this story, I recently watched the whole X-Men animated series and stuff. Other versions of this story, Wolverine is like being brainwashed and tortured for months, breaks out of the facility, kills anyone standing in his way. So you understand why anyone has to die. But here it's like that guy was just doing his job. He was like, hey, Karen, I'm gonna do the lawn afterwards. I gotta stay late for this metal procedure they're doing. I don't know what it is. First day on the job. And the guy's just dead for no reason. He didn't do anything to you.
I would also be tight if I was covering somebody's shift.
Oh my god. Anyway, he runs out naked and into another barn. What is it with this movie and barns?
I'm telling you, man, this the lumberjack. Oh, you know what? It was the 2000s, right around the time when Smallville was just all barn aesthetic. I think it really influenced. That's why we had a lumberjack flannel phase during the 2000s.
That's right. You cracked the case.
Yep. And speaking of Smallville, we see a young man who enters the home of 2 elderly people. We get their names Travis and Heather Hudson. They walk into their barn. Travis walks into his barn with the shotgun. He sees Wolverine in a very much like Terminator pose, trying to hide from the shotgun, even though I'm pretty sure he'd be fine if he got hit by one. The old man, he's just like, hey, you look like you just had a bad night versus you're looking up to do bad things. How about I give you some food and some clothing But let me just bring it to you because I don't want to give the missus a shock. And granted, it's Hugh Jackman fully naked. Like that, that's a shocking thing to see. And during this time, he's upstairs, he's in the bathroom, he's just cleaning up, and he decides to take his new Wolverine claws. I'm sighing because this is when the movie takes a drastic dip in CGI.
Well, he just got bonded, so the CGI on his new claws isn't quite done.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay,
but
thank you.
but if anyone out here has watched the Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, the CGI of the claws is roughly the CGI level of every Sword and Ivan Ooze monster. It is really bad. It is 90s bad. And it just is so jarring because there is some good CGI later in this movie and prior to this. So the claws, which are arguably the most important CGI to get right,
Right.
they just cut corners on
Yeah.
this one. Next day, this very kind family, a couple is like, here's my son's jacket. He gets his traditional brown jacket. And he's like, yo, looks like you were about to do something bad. And Logan's like, yeah, yeah, I actually am. And the man's like, well, you always got a choice to do something bad or not. Maybe that's the theme, maybe, of this movie. The old man's wife walks in with some tea and cookies, and she just gets shot.
Yo.
It is so sudden. It was like the "Do What You Say" SNL skit. Do what you do what you say.
Yes. It's, yeah.
She and her husband are gunned down by Agent Zero, which, in addition to being jarring, Agent Zero then says, look, the couple's down. Logan did it. If you're going to frame Logan for murder, and his one thing is claws, that's his thing. He kills people with his claws. Why the freak are you doing a headshot from 8 million yards? Like, he's not Jason Bourne. He's a guy with claws. How are you framing him for this?
Congratulations, Agent Zero. You're catching another zero here. And I think he doesn't realize, I think, his mistake because he immediately grabs a rocket launcher and blows up the bar.
Oh yeah, why did you even go through the trouble of killing them? You were gonna blow them apart anyway.
Blown up the whole bar. I would have totally accepted that the people didn't make it out alive versus let me see them get gunned down in front of me. What? Oh my god. This is too much. And speaking of too much, this is when we get the full on like Fast and Furious special of like so many action sequences because the whole entire place is exploding as Wolverine grabs onto the motorcycle, somehow has enough time to grab the motorcycle, turn the key, drive it out before the building explodes, and the motorcycle comes out unscathed. Like I will understand him. I don't understand how his clothes came out unscathed. I don't understand how the motorcycle didn't even have a scratch. But he's driving around with it. He's heading straight towards Agent Zero, who also has like a helicopter as backup on his left. And Agent Zero is just like, he's coming this way, which precedes Agent Zero just running towards the helicopter and making what seems like a 30 feet jump and lands safely inside of it. What is this man's powers?
I truly don't know what this power set is. And in any case, now there's crashing. It's all a mess of CGI, but the helicopter is on the ground.
It made Michael Bay proud. That's all I'm saying.
Um, Wolverine lights a spark to blow up the helicopter, walks away from it all cool, thus ending Agent Zero. Elsewhere, Stryker says he found a young mutant that is wearing red glasses and doesn't know what El Habla means in Spanish, which, It's pretty bad, but I also think he's nearsighted because he has to wear rose quartz contacts and sits in the back of the class. But don't worry about that at all, because now we're in a completely different scene where now Logan has is trying to get to Stryker or a Victor. I don't
Yeah.
know what he's trying to do at this moment, but he goes to his old teleporting friend Will.i.am, who just happens to run a gym that uh Jimmy Dukes, what is his name?
Jimmy Fred Dukes. No,
Fred
Jimmy Dukes.
Dukes.
Jimmy Dukes is a dope name though.
Jimmy Dukes. But so Will.i.am apparently runs a boxing arena gym that Dukes trains at, but Dukes ate a lot of food because he got sad after all the murdering he did, the genocides. So now he's real fat. And that's the joke. He's fat because he murdered a bunch of people and was sad about it. And now to get information, Logan's got to go fight him.
So as the two of them fight, Duke says that he will give Logan or Wolverine the information about where he can find Victor if he beats him in the fight. And the fight is pretty one-sided because although Dukes has gained many pounds and now is massively obese here, he still has all of his abilities. So he still hits like a tank. And it's enough to send Logan flying. Logan jumps back into the ring, and this is when he realizes that because his body is now laced in adamantium, his skeleton, he can use that to his advantage, and he proceeds to constantly headbutt Dukes to the point when Dukes finally falls down to the ground. And to end the fight, he extends out his claws and demands for Dukes to tell him where he can find Victor, where Dukes shares was supposed to be the twist of the movie. One of the twists of the movie is that this entire time, Victor and Stryker have been working together. They actually are operating and kidnapping mutants and bringing them to an island to experiment on their powers. And this is when Wolverine realizes that he's been duped this entire time. Stryker wanted to have him get his body laced in the adamantium, possibly in the hopes of using him in the same way that he did in the past. But now he's realizing that it's become so much more worse because Victor is now involved with the mutant kidnappings that have been happening, which is now an established plot scary thing, I guess, like 50 minutes through the film.
So we went from the mutants Logan used to work with are being killed to mutants are being kidnapped constantly, just out of nowhere. There's no transition or any hint of this happening prior to this. And we see Victor capture Cyclops. I'm gonna put a pin in this plan because later on we're gonna talk about it. So I'm gonna put a pin in this whole Victor and Stryker plan. Right now, what we find out is Victor and Stryker, the plan is for Stryker to be able to capture a bunch of mutants, isolate their powers, and then somehow combine them. That's his major plan. Victor's cool with this, apparently. He's like, let's go. Let's definitely do it. Would some of the people on the team's powers been useful for this collab and you could have skipped the middleman and had Victor kidnap them instead of kill them? Maybe. Don't worry about that though, because there's only one person who knows where to find Stryker and Victor, and that's Gambit. So they go to Gambit's casino in New Orleans, and Will.i.am wants to go too because he wants redemption for the killing he did. I guess he killed people too. I don't know. They don't.
It
They
gets
don't know.
confusing. It really gets
Yeah,
confusing.
and but don't worry about it because his spine gets snapped by Victor 2 seconds later.
Oh man. And upon seeing this, Wolverine goes into a rage. He extends his claws. Victor looks at him and says, "Ooh, shiny." Duh, I'm still trying to figure out how they were shiny because I mean it was bad CGI. That's besides the point. Um, Gambit tries to join into the fight, but he gets like basically elbowed to the face because he was just like, "This is not your time to shine." So as Victor and Wolverine fight it out, they are basically causing more damage than they did the last time. It does seem like Wolverine does have the edge, and Stryker was right that this new skeleton laced adamantium that he has is enough to fight and take down Victor. However, as they're coming to the final blow, Gambit starts running across the rooftops. And I'm just going to say, this is not how Gambit's powers work at all. Like, no. Basically, they treat it as that he took his staff, and when he slammed it down, it acts like Mjolnir and creates a concussive blast that's enough to separate these two powerhouses from fighting. That is not Gambit's powers at all. And a lot of it is connected to like energy transfers into inanimate objects. That's not what was shown here. Um, it's enough of a thing where it's just like Victor is able to escape. Wolverine, he's like, he really wanted to just find a way, and he gets very upset with Gambit for distracting him from the battle. So he starts fighting with Gambit. At one point, we see a very badly done CGI thing with like a fire escape, which had me questioning how tall the fire escapes are in New Orleans. But then
not nearly that tall.
yeah, okay. I was like, this at this point he cut a skyscraper down. Like it is not that tall.
Not on Bourbon Street, which where they were heavily implying this was taking place. Bourbon Street, the fire escapes are not that tall. They don't have buildings that tall on Bourbon Street. Like it's absolutely insane.
But now that Gambit has fallen to the ground after hanging on for dear life for all of 5 minutes in this sequence on this fire escape, the two realize that they do kind of have this common goal where Gambit, the reason why he needs to be found was because he had originally escaped from this island, and Wolverine wanted to know how to get to this island. And Gambit offered to take Wolverine to the island if it meant that he never had to worry about looking over his shoulder because Wolverine was going to go and kill Victor and Stryker and anybody else on that island, regardless of if it was their first day or if they're just covering a ship for somebody.
So okay, now we have stakes. And I guess, and now we get another reveal out of nowhere. Stryker reveals that his son was a mutant, and his mutant son eventually drove his wife to die. It's ambiguous how the death happened, but his wife is dead because of his mutant son. So I guess his goal is to create a mutant so powerful that it could kill any other mutant, but also that he can control it. So just to recap, his solution to a powerful mutant that led to his wife's death is to create a powerful mutant that could lead to everybody's death. Cool. Good thinking, Stryker. And even better thinking, there's a general here is like, yo, actually we're gonna cut it here. Like great work. Great work so far, but actually we're gonna pull out. And Stryker's like, okay, cool. Shoots the general. Just shoots him. Like doesn't even blame it on a mutant. This would be a great time to blame it on a mutant, in fact. And so he
Wow.
just
Agent Zero learned from his boss.
I
Terrible at like about framing people.
As this guy is bleeding out, Wolverine and Gambit are flying to the island. Gambit's playing he won the game of poker, just go with it. And Wolverine and Gambit have this cute little banter, which is leading to another major issue with this movie. They love to put Wolverine in situations where he has like cute banter with like Will.i.am, with Gambit, with Kayla. But these are three different characters. We cannot be expected to be invested in he's not a quippy guy. Wolverine's not that kind of guy. So if you want that dynamic, you have to keep a character alive for more than 20 minutes so we can like get that. They're like, Gambit's like, oh, don't die. And before I kill you, and Wolverine's like, "Ha, not if I kill you first." Like, you're not friends.
But here's where we get a chance to see another superhero, well, not quite landing, because he gets influenced by, I guess, maybe his future time of Captain America, as he decides to jump out this plane with no parachute. Um, because they're low enough and they're going fast enough, Wolverine just basically skips across the water, because every time he hits the water, it just like bounces him up. I was confused about like what was the plan? Like, is he trying to enter the facility under the water, or is he planning to walk through? Mainly because once he finally arrives and sees Stryker putting together his masterpiece here, Wolverine's completely dry.
Not only that, but Gambit later shows up, so that's implied he found somewhere to land the plane
Oh,
because Gambit
yeah.
can't do that. So Gambit had to land the plane somewhere. And Wolverine, it wasn't a rush. There was no deadline to getting this done. So
Yeah.
where did Gambit land the plane eventually?
I mean, this place is called 3 Mile Island. I guess somewhere along the 3 miles. I don't even know. It's a lot. It's weird. Um, so when Wolverine confronts Stryker, and then we pan back over to Wolverine, and we see that someone is standing behind him, and this person finally comes into focus, revealing that Kayla Silver Fox is actually still alive. She reveals that she has faked her death because she has been working with Stryker this entire time, due to the fact that Stryker has her sister, and she worked with Victor to fake her death by having him inject her with something to slow down her heart rate. And then Victor basically ripped the blood bag and spilt it all over Kayla, which then made me think, did Wolverine only check for the pulse and not check for wounds for something that bloody?
No, no, he just immediately because it's implied he had to bury her, right? Like he didn't just leave her in the middle of
Right.
the forest to get eaten by wild animals. Like,
Right.
like he took. Yeah, we're missing a scene where he took her to a coroner or like did any follow up. Um. So yeah. So after this reveal, he just leaves and Stryker doesn't do anything, which Victor even calls about. Like you just let him go. It seems like you earlier he does say Wolverine was a cornerstone of my plan, but he just lets him walk out the door without any like anything. And then it's revealed that Victor was doing all of this so he could get adamantium implanted in him, but Stryker's like, nah, you wouldn't survive the procedure. And here it's like, this is where I thought the movie could have been clever because I read it as he knew that Sabretooth is a psychopath and he did not want to give him adamantium
Mm.
because that guy, he could do whatever he wanted. So he just lied and said you couldn't survive the procedure. But I had to come up with that by myself. I didn't think that's not what the movie is implying. The movie's just implying like, nah, I could have never given you what you want. So Kayla's like, look, see, he's a liar. And Victor's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna kill you anyway. And Wolverine hears Kayla scream, so he comes back for round three.
Yeah. He comes through in the most jacked version of Wolverine that we can see, because he has the claws extended. He is wearing the tightest of tank tops, as his muscles are just like stretched out. The two of them rush towards each other. They start fighting. It's enough, once again, because Wolverine has this adamantium as it's kind of built up in this story. It's enough to give him the edge over Victor. At one point, even Wolverine learns to use his environment to his advantage, as he takes Victor and throws him alongside himself onto what seems to be some like steel pipes. And as Wolverine is about to give the killing blow, much in a similar fashion as to what happened with their father, Thomas Logan, Victor is saying, go ahead, do it. And you in these moments you probably want to root for him because it's just like Wolverine, this is the moment. This is the thing you wanted to do this entire time. Just take him out. But because this is a 2000s storytelling about brothers and all that, obviously Wolverine decides if he kills him, then he's no better than Victor, which was then reinforced unnecessarily by Kayla saying, "You're not an animal." And it was just like, ma'am, we know that, but you're also a terrible person for lying to this man in the way that you did. So,
Yeah. It's like, is this full circle?
right. It was like, I do not want to close this loop with you, Kayla, after everything. No.
Why is she so invested in saving Victor? Like, I don't understand.
So instead, Wolverine decides to just punch Victor in the face really hard. And let's just assume it knocks him out. And this is when Wolverine grabs Kayla and they're like, all right, it's time to go. I got a friend with a plane. And she's like, no, because Stryker still has my sister, plus a whole bunch of other mutants on this island, as they easily find everybody. And it's just like, cool. Let's cut them all out. So Wolverine runs through, cuts every single lock on all their cages as everybody runs free. Though I'm pretty sure it should have taken more time, given the fact that some of these people were really in intricate prisons. Like there was this one guy I'm assuming was super fast that was held by rubber. And how did they break him out?
Oh, he didn't leave. They
Oh, he
actually
didn't.
just
Okay,
they
he just
just
stayed.
left him there.
Okay, it was a numbers
Oh,
game. Got it.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Again, there's no time limit on any of this. Like they're not being chased by anyone. There's no security. There's no security in this facility at all. If you notice, because he runs into zero opposition the entire time until you all know it. You all knew it was coming, but Wade Wilson returns. He has his mouth has been sewn shut. He has sword claws that extend out of his elbows, which should slice his arm open every time he uses them, and can teleport as well. At least his powers are clear. At least his powers are clear now. And he
I
can
wonder if he had any of Agent Zero's powers. Maybe he could help us.
maybe. He also can heal really fast. So they do the line that everybody hates. Wait, is that you? Guess Stryker finally found a way to shut you up. Boo. So worst Deadpool attacks. Meanwhile, at a scene I completely forgot. While Cyclops is escaping with Kayla and the rest of the group, um Cyclops straight up murders the other
Oh
four
yeah.
security guards that are in this building. Like, what was that about?
Yeah, it's like add that to your teenage drama. Like, whoa. And he was like ready and willing to do it. He's just like, just point me in the direction. It was just like, sir, you're a human, not a weapon. So during this time, Kayla's sister, which is revealed to be Emma Frost, she turns
Kayla
her back.
Silver Fox and Emma Frost. Okay.
Yeah. It is comic accurate, but I've never really looked into like what happened there. So Kayla is like telling everybody that we need to move. Emma, she's like she's blocking the bullets because she has diamond hard skin. But as we mentioned, Scott is able to just take out every single one of the oppositions. And as everybody's ready to make their next stage in their exit, Kayla says that no, I have to stay because I have to help. And it's just like, help do what? But it's clear that she's actually just saying this because she knows that she can't go any further. I'm putting a question asterisk on that one because during the time when they were being shot at, she did get hit by something. Unclear if it was somebody's like actual accuracy during this entire time, or maybe if it was like a ricochet from Kayla taking something from when Emma Frost was blocking the bullets. But this entire time, Wolverine's getting the work, y'all. Like it's like a straight up butt kicking that Deadpool is just putting on Wolverine. Um, the whole entire island is taking place on this like a nuclear power plant or a defunct nuclear power plant. So they're just like now just fighting on top of one of those like I'll never really know what to call them. but you see them in The Simpsons whenever Homer goes to work. Those like giant things where just like where the nuclear energy is coming from. So they're fighting on that very small side. And as it's about to seem as if like Deadpool is about to give the killing blow to Wolverine, this is when Victor miraculously makes his way up the thing, grabs Wolverine before he falls into the pit, and just says, "Hey, I'm the only one that can kill you."
Yeah, and then Deadpool spams the teleport button um to keep up with both of them. Um yeah, so and also he fires his eye lasers that Wolverine can block with his adamantium for an indefinite amount of time, which okay, sure. It just heats him up apparently. It's fine. It doesn't however long, whatever. Um Elsewhere, Stryker's like, I got a gun with adamantium bullets, and I'm gonna shoot him and he's gonna get amnesia. And how do you know that?
I mean, because I maybe that's how guns work in the 20th Century Fox X-Men world. I don't even know.
I and also like later in Logan, it is established that guns with adamantium bullets can kill mutants. And does it was this gun weaker than the gun in Logan? Because that looked like a regular gun in Logan. In any case, he's like, I'm gonna go shoot him till he has amnesia. Uh, Logan kills Deadpool by decapitating him with the hot claws. It's pretty easy. It's really not satisfying
It's not.
at all. And as Wolverine falls approximately to the core of the earth after he jumps off the top of that nuclear cone, he doesn't get hit by debris because Gambit shows up and cuts the debris in half. And I'm also like 99% sure Wolverine would have been fine if he got hit by the debris anyway. But
Yeah. Also, that's not how Gambit's powers work.
you know, sure. Um, but it really doesn't matter. They Wolverine and Gambit have a cute moment before Wolverine decides to run into a hail of bullets, like the opening sequence.
Yeah, and this is because he sees Kayla and decides he's gonna try and be with her and try to help her escape, because he does see that she has been shot. The thing that does happen, which was our surprise cameo of this movie, is during their escape, Scott is hearing directions in his head about how to escape, and it's revealed that the person giving him these instructions and guiding the helicopter, which also makes me wonder, was he using his telekinetic powers to guide this helicopter? Is
Who
Professor
called
Charles?
him?
Okay, that's my main gripe about this movie, because I don't think anybody called him. I think Charles knew these mutants were getting kidnapped and just let them rock.
Yeah,
It has to be.
because there's never a line that's like, usually when stuff like this happens, there's a line like, oh, they were blocking the psychic powers or they're behind some kind of shield. But
Mm-hmm.
it's never established. It seems like they were just chilling in that facility and Xavier was just waiting for a big enough distraction so he could swoop in and be the savior of the day.
Right, because he does. It doesn't seem as if he knows Scott. Like Scott does have like the glasses for like, as it seems like he would have gotten them from Xavier, but it's never established if the two know each other. And in fact, it does seem as if this is their first meeting. So yeah, Charles Xavier definitely knew these kids were being kidnapped and tortured and just let them rock. That's the way I see it now.
Yep. Um, so yeah, meanwhile, Wolverine runs into the hail of bullets. Like, seriously, Stryker is shooting at him in a straight line. Wolverine runs in a straight line and gets shot. Like, if he'd zigzagged, if he waited like maybe 2 minutes for Stryker to come out of cover, if he threw a rock, he wouldn't have gotten shot. But Stryker ends up shooting him in the head directly twice, one at point blank range, which does not kill him at point blank range, which is
Yeah.
very contradictory to Logan, where Laura gets off a shot from at least 10 feet and it blows off parts of the head. Anyway, he just gets amnesia. He wakes up. Kayla dies. But before Kayla dies, she tells Stryker, "Hey," um, he touches his leg and tells Stryker, "Hey, walk until your foot bleed, then walk some more," which is gonna take a while. Like I've
Hmm.
walked around a lot on some days, like out like 7 hours, and I my feet weren't bleeding. Maybe I
Yeah.
was doing it wrong, but um, it takes a while.
Oh,
So
also I forgot to
yeah,
quickly mention, yeah, Kayla had powers for yeah, it's like so quickly thrown in that I kind of forgot. She is tacto psychosis. That's not right.
tacto hypnosis. I wrote that
Tactile
down because of how
hypnosis.
stupid it was.
But yeah, she could basically just influence anyone as soon as she touches them. So that's why she was able to tell Stryker to walk until his feet bleeds, which feel like that could have been a bigger plot point, but it wasn't. So we'll just keep on going.
Yeah, because before we wrap this movie up, we're almost there at the end. Thank goodness. So there's a throwaway line earlier where Victor says, your powers of persuasion won't work at me. My mind's just built different. So I do have to wonder though, because in another scene she's able to stop Wolverine from fighting. That's something she documented can do on paper. Could she have earlier in the movie on Stryker's pay bill at any point tried to persuade Wolverine to get the adamantium grafted into his bones? Did she attempt to do that at any point? Just like at least try it?
Mm-hmm.
Because uh, you had to, because otherwise, the two options of this plan were Kayla, try real hard to use your powers to convince Wolverine to get the medal, or we send Victor to kill a bunch of mutants, then tell Wolverine that Victor's killing a bunch of mutants, but don't tell it that we're working together. Then let Wolverine get beaten by Victor after he gets killed, after Kayla gets killed and we fake her death, and we have to hope Victor doesn't actually kill Logan. He just leaves him barely alive, and it gives him enough inspiration to go get the metal, graft it onto his bones, and then we hope we can take his DNA and harvest it and then put it in another person. Well, how is that easier than the other plan?
Ladies and gentlemen, and people of the crowd, I present to you the most convoluted plan has now been taken away from Justice League Gods and Monsters and given to X-Men Origins Wolverine.
This truly baffling villain plan. And the best outcome is this: you have a mutant that can murder anybody.
So here we start coming to the end of our film. We get a few after credit scenes. Two definitely get shown in the movie. There's one other that I've heard about. The first one is that we see Stryker finally gets stopped by some army soldiers. They tell him, "Hey, we're calling you in because we have some questions about the murder of this general," and it's the same general that Stryker had killed earlier in the scene. Um, we also see that back in the debris and all the rubble, we see this like loose hand moving around, trying to bring itself to the other parts of his body. And we see that Wade, now in his Deadpool persona, um, just looks at the crowd and says, "Shush." And showing that the mouth that he has sewn together is finally be opened up, and it's unsure if he's going to be more like how he was previously, or if he's going to be more of this like controlled being that doesn't have any knowledge of who he is, much like how Logan has left this film with amnesia. Really, it seems like the only person who made it out this film well was Victor, honestly.
Yeah, he seems fine. Actually,
Yeah.
he seems like he's just chilling. Though something happened between now and X-Men 1.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
A lot of things
Deciding.
happen.
Now that we finished X-Men Origins Wolverine, we've gone through this movie in detail about what happened. Does this movie earn its cape, or was this film straight up cap?
This is straight up cap. I mean, wow, wow, wow. This is the thing. There are many problems with the movie. There's no point in getting to each and every one of them. But some summaries. We simply don't spend enough time with any character to care if they live or die.
Hmm.
Um, this movie, I believe, came out after Born Supremacy. And if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers. But in Born Supremacy, the love interest from the first film of Identity, they spend a whole movie together. And then in the second film, she's killed in the first 20 minutes of the movie by Carl Urban. Yeah, you didn't know that was him. What did you? That was Billy Butcher in Born Supremacy. Um, so we are emotionally as an audience are connected because we got to know the character, and even if we didn't get to know the character, we had a sense they had a life together. They were out of the game. They were living this life of peace before it shattered and she's killed. So that hits for us emotionally because there was enough focus and weight given to it. Here, we're just thrown a random person and said, "Hey, Wolverine really cares," and they really try to build her up as much as they can in 20 minutes. But the fact of the matter is that because we're cutting so much, we're in and out of scene so much, we cannot be expected to care when she dies the first time. And that
Mhm.
goes for Will.i.am's character, that goes for Bradley. Everyone in this movie who dies is someone we've had maybe two meaningful scenes with. Maybe they've been on screen for a little bit longer than that, but meaningful moments are few and far between. Um, there's also a theme about this movie, which I realize now watching it after all this time. A lot of this movie is what if Wolverine fought X? That's what most of this movie is. It's like, how can we get him to fight Blob, Gambit, and Sabretooth in 15 minutes? You just have him go to places and say, I gotta fight you. I gotta fight you. I gotta fight you to advance.
Mm.
And that's most of this movie is just putting Wolverine in just random situations where he would fight other mutants. And to skip ahead to the Arte alteration, there are a lot of movies in this. There's a war movie, there's a revenge, there's a romance, there's a
Yeah.
sci-fi intrigue, there's a thriller, the apocalyptic. There's a lot going on here. To streamline it in a movie, I think that would be more thematic for Wolverine and his arc in this entire universe, particularly this trilogy. I would have it so this movie, we have the banging open montage. He goes to jail. When Stryker pulls him out of jail, it's not to do random missions going looking for rocks in Blood Diamond countries. Stryker specifically recruits Sabretooth and Wolverine to kill other mutants. He says there are
Mm.
other mutants that are problematic. We're building a team to stop them, to kill other mutants. And he gets to a mission and take the adamantium out. It does not matter that they killed. Look, in a better movie, killing a small village for adamantium would have really played, but it doesn't really play a factor because they could have found the adamantium anywhere else. This doesn't really go with the movie. So cut that scene. Instead, have them go to a scene where they're going after another dangerous mutant. And at the end of the mission, Wolverine's about to kill him. And he realizes this mutant is not evil. He's
Mhm.
not as bad. So he quits because he doesn't want to be a tool for killing mutants. The team falls apart because none of them want to be a tool for killing mutants. And guess what? Victor Creed by himself is not enough. He gets maybe some scars for even attempting. His face gets messed up, some damage. So then later, Stryker comes in and comes up with the plan. What if I had one obedient super mutant? I wouldn't need a team. I wouldn't need to rely on these people. And then the movie picks up here where he uses Victor to get closer to his goal. Victor captures, not kills, these
Mhm.
mutants to make the super mutant. And that way, thematically, when we get to the end of Stryker's endgame, it connects to the beginning of the movie. Wolverine saving the kids at the end, it means nothing in this original version because Wolverine never mistreated mutants. He never helped capture any mutants. But in this new version, because he directly killed mutants in the past, him freeing the mutants would have resonance. And by the end time we get
Mm.
to Logan and he's saving the kids, we're like, oh wow, look, he's come full circle. He stepped out of the world, now he's back in to save mutants. Would it solve all the problems? God, no. No, it couldn't. I couldn't. Will I am, you are a brilliant musician. This wasn't your role, I
Yeah.
believe. Um, but I think something to tie this movie together to make it to one coherent thing would have been great. But there I am. What do you think of this movie?
Oh man, I used to love this movie. Especially when basically every single person had a copy of it before all the visual effects were done, because that was the thing that happened, I remember.
Mhm.
But yeah, this movie was a cat for me. Um Mainly because I like Hugh Jackman. I love his work. I love what he's done with the character of Wolverine. Definitely has revolutionized the character. Even now people are like, we need someone who's like Hugh Jackman, but more along the lines of what Wolverine is truly looks like in the comics. Because let's be honest, Hugh Jackman is a 6 foot something huge jack man, and Wolverine is not that at all. So, but the thing that I had an issue with it just, I agree, it just felt like it's just how many people can we get Wolverine to fight? Which is like, it's cool to see, but not what I want to see in what's supposed to be a live action origin story of a character. The other things I was upset about was just like the bad CGI. Um, it got to a point where it was like very unbearable to watch in certain scenes. This also creates a bunch of continuity errors because the
God.
the thing I was yeah, the thing I was most upset about is that, like, by the end of this film, it shows that, like, while Wolverine does not know who he is, it should mean that by X-Men 1, even though he doesn't know who he is, Sabretooth would know who he is. And he has never, ever called Wolverine Jimmy in that movie at all.
I think he also must have gotten amnesia in between films because that's
I,
the only thing that explains why they have no dialogue or acknowledgement together.
right. Oh man, but finally the theme issue that I have with this film was that we get the standard CW 2000 drama of brothers from different sides. And the thing I didn't like about this film is that what most shows that try to do this kind of storytelling, and the immediate shows I think of were about two brothers, Supernatural and The Vampire Diaries. They, granted, those are shows, but at a certain point, I have an understanding of why both sides, both brothers, are right in their thinking, even though they differ in what their goals are. I don't get that with Victor. It's immediate that Wolverine is the favored individual. He's thrown into this brotherhood. We know that even though he starts off being the killer, and then we just end up liking Wolverine more. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. But at the end of it, it would make sense if we were given a reason for why Sabretooth or just Victor is a preferred individual, or something, like for us to align with him in some way, shape, or form. There's at no point in which we do. He's continuously siding with Stryker. He's continuously killing. He's continuously doing all the bad things. There's no rhyme or reason to it. He's just doing it for his own enjoyment. And it's not like, I would understand if it was just like he went down this path because he had lost his brother, the person who, guided him along. But even when Wolverine was there, he had already had and developed the dark side, like well into the point where Wolverine was just like, I can't do this anymore. And he just continued on. And it's not like he was looking for any path to redemption or anything like that. The only thing was, even at the end of it, he was just like, the only person that can kill you is me. So now I'm just like, why do we even care about Victor?
Yeah, being the brothers adds absolutely nothing. We don't never know what Victor wants except metal. It is skeleton. It's just bad.
Yeah. So was there anything that could have saved us behind the scenes about this movie from what we had to experience for about 107 minutes here in 2009?
No, because this one's a fairly open and shut case. I was expecting to get a lot of dirt on this one because clearly something was not right. But the explanation is really simple. Writer strike. This 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 was made during a writer strike, and they had
Okay.
to continually rewrite the movie, which makes that explains everything.
Yeah.
I think there probably was an intent for this movie to be a one unified vision, but they had to shoot around schedules. They had to, Hugh Jackman was getting busy. I imagine a lot of their guest stars and supporting cast was busy, so they had to shoot what they had. And um, I think because they were getting new pages every day, it seems like
Mm.
no one really knew what this movie was. There were so many cooks in the kitchen, so many writers. Also, as two random fun facts, originally Brian Cox was going to reprise his role as Stryker with de-aging technology. I
No.
I don't know why he would even need to do that. The year is not important.
Yeah. Because clearly the movie forgot it.
Yeah. Um. So that's a thing. And there was an alternate ending where Wolverine would be drinking in a bar saying, "You drinking to forget? Nah, I'm drinking to remember."
I
That's
don't think
it.
that's how alcohol works. Like,
Never in the history of anything. Um, and also another fun fact, this has nothing to do with the making of the movie, but I just love this fun fact so much. Um, New York's own Gilberto Sanchez got a year in jail for leaking an early copy of Wolverine Origins with unfinished effects. They tracked him down, they found him, and he got a year. He did a year bid for leaking this cap of a movie.
they were not joking with those privacy warnings on the VHS tapes back in the day.
Now he wouldn't steal a car, I bet.
I don't think he would even steal a glance. Oh man, but speaking of glances, it's time to take a look at these comic book stuff that's connected to this film. Um so I guess there's a lot. And I'm gonna do my best to get through it quickly for y'all because this one it takes a lot of history. But first, let's just quickly level set with Wolverine's comic origins. He was created by John Romita Sr. and Len Wein. They were under the direction of Roy Thomas, who requested this was this specific request that we need more Canadian superheroes. Yes, there was a boom in comics around this time, and they were in Canada, and they were like, we need to show that they're represented too. So these two got together and created in one story where Wolverine first appeared on July 2nd, 1974. So Wolverine just celebrated his 50th anniversary of his first appearance with a picture of on the final panel of Hulk in the Incredible Hulk number 180, where he's going off to face off against the Hulk and the Wendigo.
And he looks so good. He still looks the same.
Yep. Yep. Thankfully, though, they did change his mask a bit. He didn't really have those like the stronger, darker border around his eyes. They just did it around his where his eyes would have been. So he literally looks like a Wolverine versus the two Batmen who were facing each other side by side. So this comic came out in October on July 2nd, 1974. And then it was followed up by his full official appearance in the Incredible Hulk number 181, where, as I mentioned, he faced off against the Wendigo on July 30th. This is, while it's not the same story, there's an homage to it that can actually be seen in the television series Agents of Smash. It's an animated show you can find on Disney Plus right now, where the Hulk actually faces off against the Wendigo in this episode in particular too, and he is leading a team of other Hulks that includes She-Hulk, Red Hulk, A-Bomb, and Scar.
Okay.
Yeah, so check that out because I'm pretty sure Hulk is coming up soon. um, and so that was his first origin, and then eventually we will see him join up with the X-Men and all that. But this movie produces a very truncated story of the way Wolverine's origins are in comics. And this isn't just a story where it's just like, here's like a particular 5 issue comic for you all, and like this one particular year. No, Wolverine's origins have been created over the span of decades. There have been many comics that has given some kind of evidence of what was happening to Wolverine back in the day to create the person that we know and love today across X-Men media. The first one we have, which is actually called Wolverine Origin. It also went under the name Origin or Origin, the True Story of Wolverine. This is a 6-issue comic book limited series published by Marvel that ran from November 2001 to July of 2002. It was written by Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada, Paul Jenkins, with artwork by Andy Kubert and Richard Isanove. And it's more or less this movie, but better. So in this movie, it starts off very similar where James Howlett, he gets introduced. He becomes from a very rich family in Canada. He has a groundskeeper. He has a friend by the name of Rose. The groundskeeper name is Thomas Logan. Thomas has a son named Dog.
Well, you set yourself up for failure there.
Yeah. And Thomas Logan has always been a cruel individual. That's how it always played out. So in the story, it's told that Thomas, he actually looks a little bit like an older version of Logan. So the thought was that Dog was actually Logan or James or Wolverine. But it's shown that Wolverine actually has a very rich background. He's a part of the aristocracy that's in Canada at that time. So with time, as their family grows and he gets older, Thomas Logan is a very abusive and alcohol abusive person, where unfortunately Dog is the receiving end of a lot of that stuff. So Dog decides, because he's going through all this, he's like, I'm going to do the same thing too. And Logan, or James, has a friend named Rose who Dog believes likes him, and he tries and attempts to assault her. Unfortunately, that happened. Rose was able to get out and defeat him, move him out the way from anything further happening. And in doing so, Dog ends up killing Logan's dog or James's dog.
This is no joke the origin story of the first JoJo's. Like,
Yeah.
I almost like beat for beat.
So because that happened and James Wolverine, he saw it happen, they decided that like they knew that their family upbringing was not right. So at one point, Thomas and Dog, they were told they have to leave the manor by Wolverine's father. And this is when Thomas decides, I'm going to return back and rob the Howlett estate. And he's also, at that point, he gets cornered by Elizabeth, Wolverine's mom, and he's telling her that she should leave with him. And it's implied in that moment that he had an affair with her, and that it's possible that the child that they lost, that Elizabeth lost previously before James was born, might have been his, as well as James himself. So this is where we see in our movie that the Logan family is the one. So Dog in this world, as well as James, are supposed to be half brothers.
Okay. That part makes sense.
Yeah. John, he hears this commotion, so he runs out to see what's going on. Unfortunately, Thomas Logan kills John with the shotgun that he has, and Dog, Rose, and James all see this happen, along with Elizabeth Howlett. In the horror of all this, James decides, just like in our movie, to kill Thomas. And then once again, it's implied that James is actually Thomas's son. Elizabeth sees the bone claws and it's just like, what are you? And because of everything that happened, she decides to take her own life. James, shocked about what happened, is so like he can't figure out what to do. So Rose jumps in and grabs him, and they decide to run away together. But during that time, Dog decides to stay behind and uses this as an opportunity to blame James and Rose for the death of every single person in the room, so that he can just take over.
Well, they're better at framing than Agent Zero.
Yeah. So then time passes. Rose and James decide to make a new life for themselves. Fun fact, Rose is drawn to look a little bit like Jean Grey, so that explains some of the feelings that we saw in a lot of yeah. So Rose decides that they're going to have to go under new names, so they decide to go under the Logan name. And Logan will then get the name Wolverine because of the people that he worked with. They joked around with the fact that he loved to dig so much like a Wolverine.
All right, guys. I see there are different animals. The mole doesn't work as well, but come on.
Yeah, it was kind of right there. So this was all a story that was told. It was, as I mentioned, this limited series was told um after another story where Logan had, or Wolverine had, his own series called called Wolverine, in which in this particular story called Hunted, where it was introduced that Dog came back into their lives and has now been trying to mess around with Wolverine. And upon finding out all about this, this is when we get this 2001 story provided a more definitive story of who Wolverine is, how he came to be. The thing about the amnesia is not connected to adamantium bullets in this particular story. It actually is connected to all the trauma that he experienced. So every single time that he has a moment of trauma, it creates a mental block for him where he just like blacks out, and he had enough of them that it just erased his memories.
Okay. Well, that as you do.
Yeah. And then the other part of this movie that comes up is the Weapon X program. So this is not done well in this movie whatsoever. Mainly because of what we've seen across the X-Men animated series. There's also a Hulk versus Wolverine animated movie as well. In this particular, those have better depictions to me of what Weapon X really operated like. This one in particular is just Wolverine kind of telling the story about what happened to him during the Weapon X program. And this story was featured in Marvel Comics Presents The Wolverine, or Weapon X, issues number 72 through 84, that ran for about almost a year from March to September of 1991. It was written by Barry Windsor Smith. And in this, we see the whole process of when Wolverine got his bone claws laced with adamantium. This was more the definitive story of like what happened to him. He unsure if he chose to do this, or he chose to have his body laced with adamantium, or if it was just like they grabbed him and decided to create him as his project. But the biggest thing about it, as we mentioned, is the thing where he ended up not being in control of who he was or what he was doing for a very long time because of this Weapon X programming. And yeah, those are the two main stories that was trying to put in here. It would have been crazy if they tried to do some more. Like, there's at one point another part of Wolverine's origins of him working alongside Captain America, because the two of them fought together in World War II. But Weapon X and this Wolverine Origins movie is the main thing. Fun facts that I learned about Wolverine's origins also, while it's been debunked and was not planned, actually, it was believed that there was an original idea to create a story of Wolverine where he actually wasn't a mutant, but rather a Wolverine that was turned into a human by the what's his name? The High Evolutionary.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that was thankfully that was told that was not true by Len, the creator of Wolverine. But one idea that they were thinking about apparently was that Wolverine would have been an individual who was involved in the car crash, and he would have had the adamantium added into his body bone by bone, and the claws were just added in for fun, turning him into this thing. So the way that could have worked into place was that because Captain America, when they were working together, he had no concept of mutants. He would have just assumed that Wolverine was just either a really lucky guy because he was surviving all of these firefights, and that the metal claws were actually some part of his suit that he just didn't understand how it worked.
Not a lot of A+ scholars around here, huh?
Yeah, I'm glad that we probably talked to some scientists about genetics and it was like, let's just create mutants. All right, so with that, that's going to wrap up our episode today. Join us next time as we are continuing this not quite Deadpool and Wolverine adventure. I'm calling this the Ryan and Hugh Road Trip. As we're going back to our roots with a holiday movie to make Calendar Man very happy, as we discuss Once Upon a Deadpool.
Yes,
very excited for this one.
Yeah, you guys may have not have seen this. You might have thought, oh, it's the same movie as Deadpool 2. Is it? We'll find out next week.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, be sure to support us through a one-time gift on Buy Me a Coffee or monthly through our Patreon, and check us out on our socials for updates on episodes that you can find across Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and many other platforms. Take care of yourselves, and remember, if you come across a person in need of medical assistance, check to see if there are actual wounds before you sign up to have like a weird metal laced on your bones to avenge them for some reason.
And even if you're made out of metal, please do not run straight towards a bullet if somebody's shooting at you. Zigzag like a crocodile. You might have a shot of not getting amnesia and losing your entire life.
Thanks again for listening. If you liked what you heard, press that follow button and share us with a friend. And don't forget, you can always see more updates and content on our social media accounts just by searching @CapeOrCap.